Welcome back, everybody, to another Halloween episode of Our Killer Obsession. I'm James.
I'm Crystal.
Before we get started, don't forget you can listen to us on any podcasting platform. And if you're listening to us, please come on over to YouTube and check us out in person. And while you're here, please, you guys don't forget to hit the thumbs up and like and subscribe and all that jazz and help us get caught up in the algorithm.
So like we said before, for the whole month of October, we're bringing you Halloween-inspired true crime episodes on our show. This week, I am bringing you the Halloween candy mystery. Poison candy myths.
Uh-oh.
Right?
Okay.
They're urban legends about malevolent strangers intentionally hiding poisons, drugs, or sharp objects, such as razor blades, in the candy, which they distribute with the intent of harming random children, especially during Halloween trick-or-treating. Now,
okay,
you know this.
Yeah. Okay.
Trick-or-treating, even as kids, us in the 80s and 90s, it was all, you had to bring your candy home. Mom and dad had to check it because somebody wanted to cut you with a razor in your Snickers
or
bar.
Something weird. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. They even have stations, or used to, or do still, that you can take them to and they'll check
it for you. Yeah. Like I said, our parents checked our candy, make sure there's no razor blades in our candy bars, and we still check our kids' candy.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we squeeze it, make sure the air's still in it. If it's flat, we throw it away.
Definitely.
Just in case. They say these stories started as a result of candy makers wanting more money.
Okay.
You can say these are all really a myth. There's no real story behind it, is what they're saying.
Okay.
Back in the day, people used to hand out homemade treats like baked goods, caramel apples, popcorn balls, and such. Allegedly, the candy companies wanted to push away from homemade goods to large distribution of manufactured Halloween candy so they could make money. Kind of like the Hallmark holiday of Valentine's, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, these scary stories were born. We all have the story. I'm sure we've heard it in the news every Halloween. There is a story from somewhere close by everybody's hometown where there was a razor blade found in a candy bar, or, there was the ecstasy pills that somebody gave out instead of sweet tarts, you know?
Almost every year, right?
Every year we hear them, yeah. First of all, no drug dealer is going to give away their drugs to your kids,
right.
But that's what they say. Every year we hear it on the news, right? These dangers actually come from people the kids know most of the time. So there have been instances where kids have been poisoned, not necessarily from their Halloween candy, but it turns out that was what was to blame. But it's usually from their parents, not a random stranger. The best example of this is Ronald Clark O'Brien. Ronald lived with his wife Diane in Deer Park, Texas, with their son Timothy and their daughter Elizabeth. He worked as an obstetrician in Texas State Optical in Houston. He was a deacon at the Second Baptist Church where he sang in the choir and ran a local bus program. On October 31st, 1974, Ronald took his two children trick-or-treating in Pasadena, Texas neighborhood. Their neighbor and his two children accompanied them. After visiting a home where the occupant failed to answer the door, the children grew impatient and ran ahead to the next home while Ronald stayed behind. He eventually caught up with the group and produced 5 pixie sticks, in which he later claimed was given to him by the occupant of the house that had not answered the door. At the end of the night, he gave each of his neighbor's 2 children a pixie stick and one each to Timothy and Elizabeth. Upon returning home, he gave the 5th pixie stick to a 10-year-old boy he knew from church. So 5 of the sticks all went to different kids.
Mm-hmm.
Before bed, Timothy asked to eat some of the candy he had collected, and according to Ronald, he chose the pixie stick. Timothy had trouble getting the powdered candy out of the straw, so he helped him loosen the powder. After tasting the candy, Timothy complained that it tasted bitter. So, he then gave his son some Kool-Aid to wash away the taste. Timothy immediately began to complain that his stomach hurt and ran to the bathroom, where he began violently vomiting and convulsing.
Oh, wow.
Ronald later claimed that he held Timothy while he was vomiting and the child went limp in his arms. Timothy O'Brien died en route to the hospital less than an hour after consuming the candy.
Holy cow.
Right. Timothy's death from poisoned Halloween candy raised fear in the community. Numerous parents in Deer Park and the surrounding area turned in their candy the children had got from trick-or-treating to the police, fearing it was laced with the poison. The police did not initially suspect Ronald of any wrongdoing until Timothy's autopsy revealed that the pixie stick he consumed was laced with a fatal dose of potassium cyanide.
Oh.
So rat poisoning?
Okay, holy cow.
4 of the 5 pixie sticks O'Brien claimed to have received were recovered by authorities from the other children, none of whom consumed the candy.
Thankfully.
The parents of the 5th child became hysterical when they could not locate the candy after being notified by the police. So the parents rushed upstairs to find their son sleeping, holding the unconsumed candy.
Oh, my goodness.
The boy had been unable to open the staples that sealed the wrapper shut.
Oh.
All 5 of the pixie sticks had been opened with the top 2 inches refilled with a cyanide powder and then resealed with a staple.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's sus right there. When I pull a pixie stick out, it's got a staple in it. And we're like, what the hell?
This is also 1970, so maybe they looked a little different back then.
True.
But they must have been more plastic if you can staple it shut. Right now it's paper that really it just disintegrates in your hand.
Right.
But back then it's different. According to the pathologist who tested the pixie stick, the candy consumed by Timothy contained enough cyanide to kill 2 adults.
Wow.
Right. While the other 4 candies contained enough to kill 3 or 4.
Oh my goodness.
He really wasn't messing around.
Man.
Ronald initially told police that he couldn't remember which house he got the pixie stick from. Police became suspicious because he said his neighbor had only taken the children to homes on 2 streets because it was raining. Their suspicions increased after learning that none of the homes they visited had given out pixie sticks. After walking the neighborhood with police 3 times, Ronald led them to the home where no one had answered the door. He claimed that he went back there before catching up to the group. He said the owner of the home did not turn the lights on, but cracked the door open and handed him 5 pixie sticks out the crack.
Okay.
He claimed to have only seen the man's arm, in which he described as hairy. The home was owned by a man named Courtney Melvin. Melvin was an air traffic controller at the airport and did not get home from work until 11 p.m. on Halloween night. Police ruled Melvin out as a suspect when over 200 people confirmed he actually had been at work.
Okay.
So it wasn't
Pretty
the
solid.
mysterious, it wasn't the mysterious pixie stick hairy arm guy.
Right.
As the investigation progressed, police learned that Ronald was over $100,000 back then money, which is equivalent to almost $600,000 now, in debt, and had a history of being unable to hold a job. At the time of his arrest, he was suspected of theft at his job at the Texas State Optical and was close to being fired. His car was about to be repossessed. He had defaulted on several bank loans, and the family home had been foreclosed on. Police discovered that he had taken out a life insurance policy on both of his children in the months preceding Timothy's death. In January 1974, he had taken out one for $10,000 for both of his children. 1 month before Timothy's death, he took out an additional $20,000 policy. Despite the objections of the life insurance agency, and in the days preceding Timothy's death, he had taken out yet another $20,000 policy on each child.
Wow.
Yeah. The various policies approximately totaled $60,000. Brian's wife maintained that she did not know about the insurance policies on her children's lives. Police also learned that on the morning after Timothy's death, Ronald had called the insurance company to inquire about collecting the policies he had taken out on his son.
Oh, man.
The day after.
Holy crap. That's fast, huh?
Right.
That's not what I'm worried about the day after.
Right. No.
Well,
Definitely.
Back then, too, you said, what, 60,000, and then nowadays, though, that'd be a
lot more
of money.
Yep. After learning that he had visited the chemical supply store in Houston to buy cyanide shortly before Halloween 1974, he left without purchasing anything after learning the smallest amount available to purchase was 5 pounds. That's a lot. Police began to suspect that Ronald had laced the candies with poison in an effort to kill his children to collect the life insurance policy.
Holy cow.
They believed he gave the other children poison candy in an effort to cover up his crime. Police repeatedly questioned him, but he maintained his innocence.
Wow. So he's going to off his own child to collect
To collect the money because he was so far in debt.
Have some other casualties just to make a story.
To cover it up and make it seem like a real
my goodness.
malicious candy poisoning.
Terrible.
Although police never discovered when or where he bought the poison, he was arrested for Timothy's murder on November 5th, 1974. He was indicted on 1 count of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. He entered a plea of not guilty on all 5 counts. His trial began in Houston on May 5th, 1975. During the trial, a chemist who was acquainted with Ronald testified that in the summer of 1973, he had contacted him asking him about cyanide and how much would be fatal. This was also before Google.
Right.
Right. So
yeah.
You actually had to involve other people, I guess, to get your
Yeah.
knowledge. A chemical supply salesman also testified that Ronald had asked him how to purchase cyanide. Friends and coworkers testified that in the months before Timothy's death, he had showed an unusual interest in cyanide and spoke about how much it would take to kill a person. Ronald's sister-in-law and brother-in-law testified that on the day of Timothy's funeral, he had spoke of using the money from Timothy's insurance policy to take a long vacation and buy other items. So he wasn't even going to get himself out of debt. He was just going to go on a vacation. Also, his wife rejected the claim that Timothy chose the pixie stick, stating that Ronald had, in fact, forced him to choose the stick. He continued to maintain his innocence. His defense mainly drew upon the decades-old urban legend concerning the mad poisoner who hands out Halloween candy laced with poison or needles, or poisoned candy apples with razor blades inside. The case and trial garnered national attention, and the media dubbed Ronald the Candy Man. On June 3rd, 1975, a jury took 46 minutes to find him guilty of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. Right.
That is fast.
That is fast. I think there's too much to prove it.
There's
Talking to everybody and going to
the
the store to try to buy some.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mysterious hairy man handing him the pixie sticks that didn't
Yeah,
exist.
but that is quick.
Yeah. The jury took 71 minutes to sentence him to death by electrocution.
Wow. All right.
Sure, it's Texas.
Yeah, and it's back then too.
Yeah.
So it's probably real quick and easy to send him to death back then too.
Oh, yeah. Shortly after he was convicted, his wife filed for divorce. She later remarried, and her new husband adopted her daughter Elizabeth.
Well, good for her, I guess. Move on
started
and-
over.
Yeah.
On March 31st, 1984, shortly after midnight, Ronald was executed by lethal injection. His last meal consisted of a T-bone steak, medium to well done, French fries and ketchup, whole kernel corn, sweet peas, lettuce and tomato salad with egg and French dressing, iced tea, sweetener, saltines, Boston cream pie, and rolls. If I knew I was being put to death, first of all, I don't think I could eat anything. I think I'd be sick to my stomach.
Usually they got a lot of years to prepare for it.
Right, and think about it.
But yeah, that'd be...
I think it's been about almost 10 years for him.
Yeah.
So
And it'd be hard though to have a meal like everything's okay when you used your last meal.
right? I don't think I could do it. Ronald's last words were, "What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. However, we as human beings do make mistakes and errors. This execution is one of those wrongs, yet doesn't mean our whole system of justice is wrong. Therefore, I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death. Also, to anyone I have offended in any way during my 39 years, I pray and ask for your forgiveness, just as I forgive anyone who offended me in any way. And I pray and ask God's forgiveness for all of us respectively as human beings. To my loved ones, I extend my undying love. To those close to me, know in your hearts I love you one and all. God bless you all, and may God's best blessings and always be yours." Nope.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and he stated, "Ronald C. O'Brien, P.S. During my time here, I have been treated well by the TDC personnel." During the execution, a crowd of 300 demonstrators gathered outside the prison, and some cheering and some yelling trick or treat. Others showered anti-death penalty demonstrators with candy.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so that was one big story that really fueled the fire behind this myth. But it wasn't a stranger.
Yeah.
It was a dad.
Right. Yeah. And then you're going to be like, oh, this is a wrong. Put me to death is wrong,
Right. To anyone I've offended, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, what about your family?
I get some people don't agree with the death penalty, but I don't agree that they should just live their life, eating meals and watching
Playing
TV
games.
and
Yeah, hanging out.
used to the life. They get used to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a hard one. What do you do?
Right, exactly.
Mm.
There are other stories too. The other stories that help fuel the poison candy urban legend were proven to be lies and fabricated by families, completely made up, or fear creating stories pushed by the media.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems...
We know how they do that,
Right.
right? They will push some BS.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, every year you hear that story that
Yeah.
somebody in your local area
Yeah.
found poison candy.
I mean, it's true, though. You do. Almost every single year you hear it.
But it's never true.
Wow.
Rarely.
Rarely.
There has been
yeah.
some cases we're going to talk about.
Mm.
Only 2 cases of people actually handing out harmful objects have been recorded. In 1959, a California dentist, William Shane, gave candy-coated laxative pills to trick-or-treaters. He was charged with outrage of public decency and unlawful dispensing of drugs. So he was going to give them the poops.
I mean, I'm trying not to laugh here while you're talking, but what?
Laxative.
I mean,
That seems like grumpy old man down the road, like these damn kids.
in a way that almost seems like a harmful prank, like trick or treat. Well, here's your trick. I'm not giving you a treat.
I give you the poops.
Trick. All day trick.
Right. Another one. In 1964, a disgruntled Long Island, New York woman gave out packages of inedible objects to children who she believed were too old to be trick-or-treating. The packages contains items such as steel wool, dog biscuits, and ant buttons, which are like the little tiny ant poisons. Oh. They even had the word poison on the buttons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Though nobody was injured, she was prosecuted and pled guilty to endangering children. Wow. So that is one case where it was actually harmful or could have been harmful, but nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
The same year saw media reports of lye-filled bubblegum being handed out in Detroit and rat poison being given in Philadelphia, although these media reports were never substantiated to be actual events.
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Somebody just maybe...
Somebody called it into the news, like
he said, she said.
Exactly.
Next thing you know, news is like, oh, well, it happened again.
Yep, it's happened again. Lye-filled bubblegum. Check your kids' candy.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's even like there's these famous women that used to have news articles in the newspapers, and they even wrote big articles about it every year about watch your kids' candy.
Yeah.
Some other cases that have brought fear to the community and helped spread the myth, but were actually brought on by the children's families or media, were an accidental death in 1970. Kevin Toston, a 5-year-old boy from the Detroit area, died after finding and eating his uncle's heroin. The family attempted to protect the uncle by claiming the drug had been sprinkled in his Halloween candy.
Wow.
Right? Wow, how could you protect somebody like that?
Yeah,
put your child in
terrible,
danger.
Man. Wow.
Another one, a natural death unrelated to candy in 1978. Patrick Wiederhold, a 2-year-old boy from Flint, Michigan, died after eating Halloween candy. However, toxicology tests found no evidence of poison, and his death was determined to be due to natural causes.
Wow.
Another natural death due to a pre-existing medical condition. In 1990, Ariel Katz, a 7-year-old girl in Santa Monica, California, died while trick-or-treating. Early press reports blamed poison candy, despite her parents telling the police that she'd previously been diagnosed with a serious medical condition of an enlarged heart.
Oh.
And that's what actually caused her death.
Wow. That's terrible.
Another natural death due to an infection. In 2001, a 4-year-old girl in Vancouver, British Columbia, died after eating some Halloween candy. However, there was no evidence of poison candy. She had died of a strep infection.
Holy cow.
So, but these were all picked up by media because it's right at Halloween. They're eating candy. They're getting really, really sick. They're dying. And the media is like, it was the candy.
And that's what I was just thinking too, is like, we know that sometimes when these things happen, it can be weeks or months before a toxicology report or anything comes back.
Right.
You know, so that gives everybody, including the media, a bunch of time just to spread their theories.
And they're going to report it on November 1st, November 2nd, and then we don't hear about it again.
Yeah.
So 6 months later, when the toxicology report comes out, we don't even hear the truth.
Yeah, true.
We just hear, oh, remember last Halloween?
Yeah.
That little girl died after she ate candy?
Yeah.
That's all we hear. So even though we know it's a myth and has been proven so many times, and it's more likely our kids will get hit by a car on Halloween than be poisoned, we still fear the mythical danger, the thought that someone is out there and they want to hurt our kids.
Yeah.
You know, even though we read these stories and we know it's not true, I'm still going to check their candy.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, I still don't want that creepy stranger lurking around the corner to hurt my kids.
Yeah.
I'm still going to check their candy.
Maybe it's a good thing we've had that precaution burned into us, because you never know.
Never know.
Accidents do happen. You know, things could get dropped in a candy bowl on accident. So, you never know.
We're going to stop them from getting those laxatives.
Yeah, that's right. No poops around this house.
So that's the myth, the story of the poison candy. I know all you out there know one of them stories, and you're going to come at me in these comments and tell me, but in my town, there was this one kid. But it's not true. Yeah. It's mostly not true.
Mostly not true. Wow.
It's mostly family inflicted.
Holy cow.
Yep.
And I'm sure there are plenty of other injuries, deaths, whatever, on Halloween night that are caused by other things that don't really get pushed just because the media wants to push that.
Exactly. Because it's been a decades-long myth
eye-catching story
that keeps pushing. Yep. Exactly.
All right, and that's going to do it for this episode tonight. And we want to thank you for joining us.
And make sure to come back next week for our final spooky Halloween true crime inspired episode. It's a big one. The man that inspired it all. Come back and see you next week.